2 original 6 teams might stink. Plus, the Ducks might have Vegas's number now. And are the Devils okay without Jack Hughes? Doesn't seem that way. All that and more coming up on Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Good evening and more likely good morning, hockey fans. Welcome to Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now the #1 sports podcast network, your teams every day. Thanks for making Locked On NHL Game Night your place to get a recap of all the night's action in the NHL during the regular season and the playoffs, whether it's one game, 16, anything in between. We are always here with the latest for you. We're available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Alex Wiederspiel. I write about hockey for Yardbarker, and I hang here on Locked On NHL Game Night. And lately, I have done every sport other than hockey under the sun for my job. And Shukri writes with me today from 97.5, The Fanatic, right? The Fanatic.
Yes.
Not the fan, not to be confused.
Yes. Otherwise, I have to put my foot up your fanny.
The Fan is a Pittsburgh station. We don't mess with Pittsburgh.
No.
We've got all the goals, saves, big moments, and stories from the night in the NHL with a big assist from our Locked On local experts. And man, busy night. Not as busy as the last couple of Saturdays. There was one fewer game, but we had some really, really good ones, some very compelling storylines, and I think, Shu, the obvious place to start, the Stanley Cup rematch, Edmonton and Florida. They are both a little bit less than the sum of their parts right now, but the Edmonton Oilers get the win 6-3 in this one. That included 2 empty netters in the third period. Those were the only goals of the third period as the Oilers not really the best road team this year, and Florida not really at 100%. So it's kind of a strange one in a certain respect, but good night for Evan Bouchard, 3 assists. He was +5, and boy, did the Oilers need that from a guy. He'd been under some fire lately.
You certainly needed it. And speaking of interesting headlines, the Devils kind of got their face punched in tonight against the Flyers in Philadelphia, all on the heels of a very interesting, juicy headline out of New York City, apparently, which might include Datesgate. I'll get into it in a little bit with you about that.
Okay. Very good. Very good. I look forward. I do have the Flyers are in our first block because I thought what they did to the Devils tonight was pretty impressive. We will get to that. Edmonton and Florida, though, a big night for the Oilers. They get the win in this one. Why don't we start with Armando Velez of Locked On Florida Panthers, who come up on the wrong end of this one, unlike in the previous Stanley Cup Finals.
Lately, with the Florida Panthers falling behind the 8 ball. Unlike Monday's game against Vancouver, the Panthers were not able to overcome it in a 6-3 loss to the Edmonton Oilers. 2 empty net goals at the end made it a score that was a lot further than the final score actually indicated. But the Panthers were able to create some life after Sergei Bobrovsky gave up 2 leaky goals. 1 25 seconds in and 1 in the middle of the second period. But the Panthers kept pushing and pushing after Tennille Tarasov came into the game. Fun fact about Tarasov, he'd never given up a goal in his career coming in relief and giving the Panthers a chance to win. Continued to press on, but the Panthers were unable to get that goal to force it to overtime and come out with 0 points when you believe that they should have had at least 1 on the night. We're going to break all this down and more on Monday's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Your team every day.
The Oilers needed that one, Shu.
Oh, did they ever? I mean, this is the end of a grueling 7-game road trip, and this was arguably their best effort during this stretch, and it's probably the best effort over the past 2 games, in which that it was something that that Edmonton Oilers head coach Chris Naba talked about on post game. Jack Roslovich was absolutely huge for them tonight, and Matthias Ekholm, 3-point night, a goal and 2 assists as well. So for Edmonton, this is a good way to end what had been a very long 7-game road trip in which that they went 3-3-1 that just ended this evening.
Let's talk about Montreal and Toronto. Things went from bad to worse in Toronto, and they showed some signs of life after pulling Joseph Woll, who was not the problem in this game. But Montreal had their number in every which way, form, fashion that you can possibly imagine, scoring the first four goals in this game, three of which came from defensemen Lane Hudson, Noah Dobson. There was a pretty funny tweet out there about it was from one of the Toronto beat writers, basically saying it's like a cruel insult to injury. I think it was the Toronto beat writer from the Athletic, but it's a cruel insult to injury that not only are they down early, but they're down early because two puck moving defensemen, something Toronto has basically none of right now, scored goals, and in fact, then they would add another one. So Montreal gets the 5-2 win, added an empty netter, and a good win for the Canadians, but there were times tonight where I don't know what to make of Toronto. I know they're without Austin Matthews. That's a big deal. Obviously, they're without Anthony Stolarz. He wasn't playing very well. Boy, the Leafs look bad right now, man.
Oh, they do. I mean, one win in the last 8 games where they have gone 1-5-2. Whew. I mean, I don't know what else to say except, I mean, they have not looked good in the last 8 games, and I get that, but also, how about Craig Berube just not knowing when exactly Austin Matthews is going to return? But as far as tonight's game is concerned, brother, I mean, you knew that it's Saturday night in Montreal, it's hockey night in Canada, and the Toronto Maple Leafs, you kind of just had to have known that something rotten was going to happen, and certainly did, especially in the first couple of periods. Um I thought that Montreal really played with a lot of pace, and you saw like Noah Dobson and Josh Anderson really take it to the Leafs, and they really like came to play tonight, and it showed.
We have a rare one. Lauren Sabat and Ian Boisvert were actually together tonight. So let's hear from the hosts of Locked On Montreal Canadiens.
Hi from the Bell Center. We just watched the Montreal Canadiens beat the Leafs. The difference maker was that second period. It was the first really good one all season, and they ended up winning the game. Obviously, Noah Dobson came up big, and this was Ian's first game at the Bell Center.
I'm never leaving. We'll see you guys on Monday.
All right, so wait, before we
wow, that was faster than the Leafs. Even I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not gonna rub some salt in the wound, but go ahead. Continue,
I'm
please.
just gonna say,
wow,
so that's great. His first trip to the Bell Center, that's wild. I actually have never. So I've been to Madison Square Garden for many reasons. I've been for concerts. I've been for the Big East tournament in basketball. I have never actually been for a New York Rangers game. I've only ever seen the Rangers on the road because I have lived away from New York and New Jersey area where I grew up for as long as I have. So I get it, Ian. Let's move on to Philadelphia, man. I want to talk about the Flyers. I think I definitely underestimated the Flyers, and I'm not sure I'm bought in on them as a playoff team, but they are taking full advantage of the opportunities in front of them. Banged up New Jersey Devils team, they didn't just beat them. They kind of pounded them in this one. They set a record tonight with 3 goals in 26 seconds. I believe that was a Flyers record. 3 goals in 26 seconds. Another nice performance for Dan Vladar. Stopped 32 of 35 for a .914 save percentage. Noah Cates with a big game. The Flyers looked good. The Devils continue to look bad without Jack Hughes.
I've been bullish on this Flyers team, and as someone who watches this team on a nightly basis here in Philadelphia and talks about them on 97.5 The Fanatic, I've been very bullish about this team looking more and more like a playoff team, and I haven't been proven wrong. And listen, Tyson Forrester has developed really nicely and has continued to play a big role offensively. But man, you talk about another resilient win. In reality, listen, like the Devils, they score first, and you're thinking, uh-oh, here we go again, Timo Meier, and it's 1-0. Devils on a power play goal, and then right after that, all you saw was a 3-piece combo from the Philadelphia Flyers, faster than you can say Rocky the Statue or Rocky Balboa. And oh, by the way, like the Devils got hit so fast, they didn't realize it was a little too late, unlike Jack Hughes going on a date with Tate McRae. But more on that another time. But that was a story in its own right, and unfortunately, they got a little too high off that story, and in Philadelphia fashion, basically got a 4-piece knockout.
Let's hear from Rachel Donner. She's got the final word from Locked On Philadelphia Flyers.
Flyers got a huge 6-3 win versus division rival New Jersey Devils with Tyson Forster leading the way. Hi, I'm Rachel Donner from Locked On Flyers. Tonight's game was the second one with switched up lines, moving Travis Konechny onto the Cates line with Bobby Brink joining Sean Couturier on the wing, and both lines found success in this one, to say the least, with all three OG Cates line guys getting on the board. Tyson Forster's rocket of a shot accounted for 2 of the Flyers' 3 goals in 5th best in NHL history, 26 seconds in the first period. Now, the Devils did reestablish themselves in the latter second period and the third period with a greater share of chances to get back within 2, but Dan Vladar was excellent in net once again. Bobby Brink got one of his own, and Trevor Zegras capped it off in his inimitable style. More on this game on the Monday show of the Locked On Flyers podcast.
All right. Much appreciated, Rachel Shue. We're going to wrap with Tampa and Washington before we go to break, where the Lightning, who have been kind of up and down this season, they were up today. Washington's also been kind of up and down this season. They were down today. Tampa gets a 5-3 win, 4 goals in the first period, 4-point night for Brandon Hagel. And the Lightning, they've been battling a lot of injuries, but they seem to be treading water now. They've at least established themselves as capable of surviving despite all the injuries.
They were certainly the Thunder. That they brought the Thunder in the nation's capital. Brandon Hagel had a huge offensive night tonight, and as well as Nikita Kucherov, who unfortunately had to leave the game early after taking a hit from Tom Wilson. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that as well. So, but certainly this was a huge performance for the Lightning, who took advantage of a struggling Washington Capital team, in which that we saw Alex Ovechkin's 4-game goal streak come to an end, in which that the Capitals went 0 for 6 on the power play.
We're going to take a closer look at a budding rivalry between Anaheim and Vegas. Not good situation going on in the Metro Division for the New York teams today, and Detroit with a comeback win. All of that coming up here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Before we move on, though, let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401k savings and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table, which in this day and age you should never do. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It's helped me organize my accounts, track my spending, and get a better handle on everything that's going on with my financial life, and I don't have to touch a spreadsheet, thank goodness, because I have wasted a lot of hours on Google Sheets. Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools, they make it so much easier to understand where my money's going, how to make it work harder for me. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, we're going to jump into it. Shue, the Anaheim Ducks. This was a kind of a wild one. It settled down a little bit in the third period, but this is turning into a real rivalry, I think, here. Once upon a time, it was San Jose and Vegas, and now it might very well be Anaheim and Vegas. I would love to get a 7-game playoff series of this. 3-2 Vegas going into the second period. Anaheim scores in the second. Troy Terry's 7th goal of the year. He's been really strong this year. That would be your score going into overtime, where Cutter Gauthier, unassisted, gets the winner 4-3, the final in this. And the Ducks, 14th win. They are back on top of the Pacific Division.
Oh, it's getting nasty, and I couldn't agree more. It's really going to be fun to watch both Anaheim and Vegas all season long. And if they were to meet in the postseason, sign us both up, even though it will make for late night hockey. But I would absolutely watch. But listen, in terms of tonight's game, like you saw a little bit of what that could potentially look like. Back and forth affair. Vegas throwing the first punch, no surprise. Anaheim showing the grit that they've shown under their first year head coach Joel Quenneville. And listen, there's some magic going on over at the pond in Anaheim. And listen, like you talk about Troy Terry, who continues to really take that big step forward for the Anaheim Ducks, and as well as Cutter Gauthier as well. So for Anaheim, an impressive win. And for the Vegas Golden Knights, man, like what a way to lose a tough one, but certainly a very entertaining hockey game in Anaheim tonight.
We're going to let Kyle Carr have the final word on the Ducks' second win of the season in the exact same fashion over the Vegas Golden Knights.
Anaheim Ducks get another comeback in overtime, taking out the Vegas Golden Knights at home. Giving up the first goal again. That seems to be the Ducks' MO, and unfortunately, it's going to keep biting them in the butt. But the Ducks came back, fought, down 2-0, get 2 goals in a row, and then it's a highly contested game. Vegas takes the lead to make it 3-2. Finally, Anaheim ties it 3-3, and it is stuck at a stalemate pretty much the rest of the game until OT. Vegas gives up a massive giveaway right to Cutter Gauthier after Beckett Seneca gets tripped up, fans yelling for a call, but Gautier's right there in the right spot, gets it home. Anaheim on a tear, officially the top team in the Pacific right now. Let's fly together.
All right, very good. Thanks, Kyle. And worth noting here, they get the win in that one. Again, they are atop the Pacific Division. Let's move over to the island, where St. Louis goes to Long Island and comes out with kind of a surprise win. The Islanders had been red hot. The Blues had been bad. There's really no other way of putting it. And they come out and get the arguably best goaltending performance of the season from Jordan Binnington. He stops 30 of 31 shots in this one, including a huge one in the final 30 seconds to keep the Islanders from forcing overtime. And St. Louis, listen, all of the names of those players are at the top of the Athletics trade board right now. It's a problem in St. Louis. They've got a ton of work to do. They've only won 7 of 22 games this season, Shu, but this was an important win for them tonight because you got to start somewhere.
Massively important, and I don't think that could be overstated in terms of what Jordan Binnington's performance meant for this team this season, and hopes for them to try to get the season in the right direction. And you talk about a team that found a way to end their 4-game losing streak, which I think was like critical, considering that it included back-to-back overtime losses entering Saturday's game against the Islanders. And if you're St. Louis, you got to really like and appreciate the grit that was shown. Like just 42 seconds into the game, Shan made it 1-0. And man, like for St. Louis, this was a huge win on the island in hopes of trying to get their season on the right in the right direction.
Let's give Gil Martin the final word from Locked On New York Islanders.
New York Islanders fall to the St. Louis Blues 2-1 in their first home game after a 7-game road trip. And unfortunately for most of the game, the Islanders looked like a team that had just returned from a 7-game road trip. They were just a step slow. The passes were a little bit off, and they were just not getting a lot of shots on goal. When they did, credit to Jordan Binnington. He stepped up big time. The Islanders really didn't show a lot of energy in this game until the final 5 minutes. By that time, they were already down 2-0. They did get 1 goal back from Anders Lee. Looked like they had a second, but it was called back. But that last 5-6 minute push, just too little too late. And the Islanders fall 2-1. They have a quick turnaround as they host the Kraken tomorrow. For more in-depth daily coverage of your New York Islanders, check out the Locked On Islanders podcast.
All right, so big win there for the Blues. They're going to have to find a way to string some together. Let's keep it with New York, not in New York. They were on the road finishing up a road trip out west, and Utah has not been kind to the New York Rangers so far in the early stages of that franchise. The Rangers are back under 500 with a 4-game losing streak going on, and they fall 3-2 in this one. Jonathan Quick was pretty good for the Rangers coming in this one after Igor Shesterkin played a couple of nights ago. They gave him a rest. JJ Peterka scores, Clayton Keller scores, but the winner late in the third period, or midway through the third period, really. But Nick DeSimone scores on kind of a messy, broken play, and Utah ultimately gets the win. The Rangers look like a mess. Shu, before I go to you, let's hear from let's call it an animated John Chick from Locked On New York Rangers.
Okay, so this is not the only reason why the Rangers just lost this game to Utah, but there was a big-time sequence, very, very important, in the third period in which the game was tied. You've got Alexis Lafreniere having two separate chances to score on a net that was basically wide open. I mean, he was robbed on the first of those two shots, but he gets the puck back a second after that, and he's not able to bury it into the empty net. And granted, the defender did make a nice play there, but I don't know, man. Alexis Lafreniere, to me, you got to bury at least one of those two shots. And if he does, the Rangers have the lead. But as it turns out, it goes back the other way. Utah scores. They make it 3-2. And that was indeed the final. And another just wasted performance by Jonathan Quick as well. He was spectacular in this game. And the Rangers have nothing to show for it. But that sequence in the third period there where Lafreniere couldn't finish and then Utah did. Granted, kind of a funny bounce that Utah, got the benefit of. But be that as it may, they scored fair and square. And just a rough sequence there, and another loss for the Rangers. We're going to be breaking down on the next episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Do not miss it.
I'm glad he brought up Lafreniere. I watched, obviously, every minute of this game. Lafreniere took 7 attempts on goal. 5 of them missed the net entirely, where he doesn't even make the goalie make a save, and the Rangers lose by 1. Got to get more out of your first overall pick.
You certainly got to get more out of Lafreniere, but then also I think you certainly need to get more out of this Ranger team that it's tough because for them they not only they've lost 4 in a row, but it seemed like they just can't get out of their own way at times, especially tonight where they seemingly did get outplayed by Utah and they didn't have the energy or the juice and unfortunately, the Rangers, you need to bring that forward. Utah had the energy and juice in space tonight, and unfortunately, the Rangers simply just got outplayed. There's no other way, to put it. And Mika Zibanejad is spot on. They look disconnected on the ice, and I think that comes back to the players as to why they're disconnected, why they lack energy.
They just don't have a second gear. No JT Miller tonight either. That didn't help. I think the Rangers' lack of depth is pretty evident. No Will Borgen tonight either, but whenever they're missing a player from their top 6 or their top 4, they look incalculably, I think I said that right, worse. Let's finish on a positive note. Well, at least for Red Wing fans. So one Original 6 team had a good night. Detroit comes from behind. They trailed Columbus in the third period, and they scored 2 goals within 3 minutes and 2 seconds of each other. Ben Sherratt, Moritz Seider, defenseman goals to get this thing evened up. And Alex DeBrincat gets the winner in overtime, his 10th of the season. The Detroit Red Wings come from behind. They continue to stack points. And Shu, it's crazy to say, but I think the Red Wings might actually have a chance at winning the Atlantic Division if this continues. I
mean, it's a big if, but you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But in terms of for today's game, I definitely thought that that Detroit, they showed a lot of heart in this comeback in which that they were trailing 3-1 in the third period. And DeBrincat certainly was the hero in this one. It's a 6th goal in as many games. And for Detroit, I thought that watching Moritz Seider really place his imprint in this game was critical in the third period, including the Seider goal. And for Patrick Kane, good old Patrick Kane, having 2 assists for the Red Wings, who suddenly are really getting hot at the right time. They were now 4-1-1 in their last 6 games.
Best of the rest coming up in the next segment. The best team in the NHL remains the best team in the NHL. Colorado still with just 1 regulation loss. They get another win tonight. We'll get into that coming up here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Our show brought to you in part today by our friends over at Rugit. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. It happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugit comes in. Rugit.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugit makes it easy to get started. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, no awkward waiting room, no in-person appointments, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, it's simple, it's private, all handled by real doctors. Visit Rugit.com/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. That's Rugit.com/LockedOnNHL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNHL so that they know that we sent you. Rugit, stop making excuses and start making moves. Also, our show brought to you in part by our friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game, or if you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has got live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Who doesn't enjoy that? It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Shu, here we go. We're going to go rapid fire through the last four games of the night. I want to start in Colorado. This one was actually a little bit closer than I think most of us would have expected. The Nashville Predators have been, I think, politely a disaster this season. In Colorado, they've been playing with a chip shoulder all season. And correction, this was in Nashville tonight. Mackenzie Blackwood has been banged up all season. He gets in, a bit of a goalie duel between him and UC Soros. He stops 35 of 35. Colorado scored one goal and two empty netters late. They win this one 3-0. The Avalanche on top of the Predators in this one.
Continue to find ways to win. It was a terrific night in net for Mackenzie Blackwood. And listen, like the way that things looked early on, I thought it was going to be a runaway win, but no. The Predators kept it close, and the Avalanche continue to play the stellar brand of hockey.
That they do. And Calgary comes up with a win tonight as we'll move over to Western Canada, to Alberta, where, listen, the Flames have not had a great stretch this season, right? They've only won 7 of 23. This was their 7th win, but they beat Dallas 3-2. This is a rematch of one of the better playoff showdowns we've seen in the last couple of years. These teams are very different. Dallas has improved a lot since then. Calgary has gone the wrong direction since then, but the Flames get the shootout win 3-2, and they do it with a backup goalie in net in the form of Devin Cooley. And I got to say, impressed with the Flames in the respect, Shu, that they seem, even though they don't necessarily always have the talent, they are not like, let's say, a Buffalo Sabres team who I think sometimes gets outworked. Calgary never gets outworked. That is not their problem.
Their issue isn't their lack of effort at all either. So that's a positive. And what you saw tonight was a team that just had a workmanlike, mentality, and and it was good to see, a Matt Coronado who ran his goal scoring on streak to 4 games, in this one, as the Calgary Flames had a 3-2 shutout win against the Dallas Stars, and also in this one, Joel Farabee also scoring for the Flames as well.
All right, we head out to more my neck of the woods, my current neck of the woods, if you will, the 4-1-2, Pittsburgh, where the Penguins let one get away from them today. Pittsburgh led 2-1 in the third period after an Evgeny Malkin power play goal. They got goals from Crosby and Malkin in this one. Crosby had 2 points on the night, but a late goal in the third period from Matty Beniers of Seattle forces overtime. Brandon Montour would ultimately score the overtime winner. And listen, I don't think anyone had high expectations for Pittsburgh, but you got to think, like, the way that they had been playing, they can't let points get away from them right now.
No, absolutely not. Not in this this very tight division right now, in which that every point matters. And I think this was a good bounce back win for the Penguins after getting completely embarrassed by the Minnesota Wild on Friday night. So So it was good for Pittsburgh to be able to ultimately bounce back and win and see Sidney Crosby become the 6th player in NHL history to reach 500 multi-point games as well.
The Ottawa Senators and the San Jose Sharks in our final game of the night out in San Jose. Ottawa, without Brady Tkachuk, man, they seem to have settled nicely into a spot where they have figured out how to win games. Dylan Cousins with a power play goal, Tim Stützle with a goal and an assist in this one in a 3-2 win. Before we get to our final thoughts, let's hear from Brandon Pillar of Locked On Senators.
Senators continue to shine in California. I'm Brandon Pillar from the Locked On Senators podcast, and it's another 3-2 win for the Sens on this road trip. Their second in a row after beating the Anaheim Ducks, now the San Jose Sharks. And it was a couple of revenge goals that got this one done for the Sens. Fabian Zetterlund finally finds the back of the net with a beauty wrist shot top shelf. And who gets the winner? But Tim Stützle, a player that could have been a San Jose Shark, but ends up an Ottawa Senator instead. We'll have all our reaction in the postcast and more on Monday's episode of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Are Ottawa Senator fans ever going to let San Jose Sharks fans live that down?
No. And I'm so serious. Just no.
Yeah, they're never going to do it. It's every time they play, it comes up every single time. We're going to be hearing about this for the next decade at least, especially if Tim Stützle winds up actually winning a couple of playoff series or more with Ottawa. They've got work to do. But real quick, Shu, before we go, I will just say, listen, San Jose's been a fun story this year. Ottawa, to their credit, has not gotten kind of the credit that they have deserved playing the way they have without Brady Tkachuk. They started off after the Tkachuk injury, lost a couple in a row, didn't look good. They have really stabilized since then.
And they have. You got to give them a lot of credit and wish that they also won the first 2 of a 7-game road trip, and they're 5-1-1 in the last 7 games. And you got to give them credit for weathering the storm, not having their captain in the lineup. So, and also giving credit where it's due, Linus Ullmark having a 17 save performance as well, which is something that the Ottawa Senators certainly needed in this one.
If you want complete coverage of your favorite NHL team, I have good news for you. There is a Locked On NHL Team podcast and YouTube show for you because we have one for every NHL team. And this show, Locked On NHL Game Night, is here for you each and every night. That is right. 7 days a week, no matter what time the last game ends. We are here for you. Shu and I, by the way, we're on the East Coast. We're on the Eastern time zone, so we're staying up, watching these games late. Eddie on the West Coast, he only has to be up till 11 o'clock at night most nights when he does this show. But we love it. It's a ton of fun to watch, and we hope that you love it as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this show if you're watching on YouTube. We want to see your thoughts on tonight's games. Do you feel like Ottawa has stabilized? Do you feel like who's in worse shape right now, the Toronto Maple Leafs or the New York Rangers? Both original 6 teams looked rough tonight. That'll do it for this episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. For Shukri Wrights, I'm Alex Wiederspiel. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, your teams every day.